Okay, everybody, here's the next video that I've been meaning to make for a while, which is just explaining to you what happens when an SI joint gets stuck. So here I have my model pelvis from the back because that's where it's easiest to show you. So again, you have your SI joints here and here. Sorry, it's hard to hold the phone and do this, but I'm doing my best here. So this joint is held together by ligaments. They hold the ilium to the sacrum, and vice versa. When these ligaments get sprained, they don't do as good a job holding everything in place, and that's why you can start to have abnormal motion in these joints. So actually on my model, you can see that if I loosen these screws, it's almost the same as if you sprained a ligament in real life, and it just becomes a little bit more wobbly. And as you can see, there's not a lot of motion. This is possibly even more motion than you would see in a real person, because with the SI joint, we're talking about millimeters of movement. We are not talking about a joint that moves very much at all, which is why SI joint dysfunction is so under-recognized. But anyway, so let's imagine that these ligaments have been sprained. So I'll loosen the screws on both sides. Because honestly, even if you sprain the ligaments on one side, everything in the pelvis is connected. It's connected this way, it's connected this way. It's really like a big ring. Sometimes they call it the pelvic bowl. So it's kind of only a matter of time before the good side starts compensating for the other. So what will happen is you will have one hip bone that will rotate backwards just ever so slightly. And again, it's hard to see. We're talking about millimeters, but really, this is going to come down backwards and down, and it can get stuck against the sacrum in the wrong place. Like if it's supposed to be lined up so that it's like up here, it can get stuck down like a millimeter. I hope you see that I'm just moving it down, and it can get wedged that way. When that happens, we say the ilium has rotated posteriorly. What will happen is the other one will ever so slightly, like just a millimeter or so, move up and forward. So we call that this one moving anteriorly. For me, when this one would rotate backwards, I would feel it. I could feel that things were stuck. And what would happen is I'm going to flip this whole thing over. So keep your eye on the leg bone and the hip socket, okay? So I'm just going to move this a little bit. Sorry, this is hard to do with one hand, but when the hip bone rotates backwards, what happens is the hip bone is going to rotate forwards, forwards and up, because it's being pulled up forwards as this rotates back. So now your hip bone in front is going to feel like it's up higher, or really what that's going to feel like is your leg is going to feel a little bit shorter because it's being pulled up in the front. And you might perceive that the other leg feels longer. But what's happening is what you're sensing here in your legs is actually coming from the SI joint. So for me, the very first time it happened, I walked into my chiropractor's office crying because I felt like I had like a stilt under one leg. That was how I described it. I was like, I can't lift my leg on this side, and this leg feels too long. And he explained to me, and again, this took me a couple weeks to really understand. It kept happening. What was happening was this leg felt short because this hip bone was moving back. This leg felt long because well, it was at a normal height, and this one was short. So what I perceived was that this one felt long. So I hope this makes sense. And what my chiropractor did was he used his little activator tool to come in with this one that was backwards. And I'm not a chiropractor, but he could use his little activator and just very gently tap this forwards. And anyway, this video is getting a bit long, but chiropractic visits were what I really relied on for the first few years until I learned how to use the muscle energy technique to adjust things myself. Okay, so this video is a little awkward. It's definitely the second video I've ever made, but I'm kind of forcing myself to just put it up even though it's not perfect, because it helps me get over my stage fright to just do it and not overthink. And I'm hoping that as time goes on, my videos are going to keep getting better and better. So I hope you're able to follow this. If you have any questions, you can leave a comment below or email me at sunlightandwinter12@gmail.com. Thank you.